Hello and welcome back to How to Invest for Yourself. I'm Jason, and today I'd like to talk to you about why you would want to do velocity banking, and should you do velocity banking, and what's the whole thought process behind velocity banking as a whole. I would say before you even got to that discussion of why you would want to pursue velocity banking, I would say you need to know what your goals are. What is it that you're trying to accomplish by doing velocity banking versus just doing the snowball method, or just paying your bills on time, or just throwing the extra cash into something? What is that goal? Even after you've paid off all of your debts and you used velocity banking, could you reverse it, flip it, and instead of paying off debt, maybe you use your debt as leverage to help you reach FIRE, your early retirement, building your savings account, building your nest egg, paying off your mortgage? Maybe that may be the last step that you do. What is your goals? So I would say the first thing that you need to look at is, what are your goals, right? Why would you want to pursue velocity banking? Why wouldn't you want to do, the snowball? Why wouldn't you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to start with paying off the smallest debt and then rolling that payment into the bigger debt and then rolling that next payment into the bigger debt, and you keep growing and growing and growing and growing, and before you know it, you owe zero. You owe zero on your debts. Maybe it has to do with you going from this to this, right? What is the difference? What is the difference between day one and say 10 years? What is it? To get your snowball growing and rolling to where your payments towards the debt is massive. I would say, and this is very obvious, to me it's obvious, maybe it's not obvious to most people, we'll say this is year 1 to year 10 to get to year 0 on your debts. To me, the snowball method is great for people who have no plan, but they want to implement some plan to start paying off something. My biggest problem with it all is time. We don't have much time in this world. And I know for sure, for me personally, I don't want to work until I drop. I want to retire still being able to enjoy life, right? This is what my complaints were about retiring, right? I was like, man, if I retire at 67, 70, and I see all these people around me, they're pushing wheelchairs, or they have the electric scooters, or they got those little I forgot what you call those things that you kind of scoot in front of you, those little scooter doohickey things that you use to kind of walk, or, well, not even walk, you can't really walk. So I'm like, I don't want to be that midlife crisis guy at like 60, 68, 69, 70, going out and buying a nice sports car and traveling the world, and I can't do anything. I can't enjoy anything. I'd be like, hey, I would love to go on a cruise, or go diving maybe, or whatever it is that I would like to do. I don't want to do that stuff when I'm like 60, 70, 80 years old. I want to chill, relax, and not do anything, to be honest with you. And if I do something, it's going to be something that I want to do that is fun. Because for me, retiring isn't about not doing anything and just sitting around or just playing golf every single day. To me, retiring would be doing something that I would like to do, help people, talk to people, educate people, not so much for profit, right? Not for profit to say, hey, pay me some money, now I'm going to teach you something. I would rather it be like, I want to do something like, maybe I want to tune cars or something like that. Maybe that's what sparks my interest. Maybe I want to go do charity work and travel around the world and go build houses and stuff like that. Maybe I want to build a garden. Maybe I want to do something simple like that. Work for a farm nearby and learn how to grow some corn, or grow, it could be anything. Whatever your heart's content is, that's what retirement should be. Is you're at that capacity that you could try to pursue something that's non-taxing on your body, something fun, something that's rewarding, something that you can give back to the community. That, at least to me, that's what my goals would be. It's not so much I want to sit on my butt, watch Netflix, and do nothing. The doing nothing part to me is not ideal. But anyways, that's my own personal goal. But whatever your goals are for why you would want to, get out of debt, do you have all this time? Maybe you do. Maybe you are like 20 years old. Maybe you are 20 years old, right? I don't know of any 20-year-olds that are actually watching these kind of videos. But let's say you're 20. How much time do you got until you reach 60? 40 years, right? You have plenty of time. Lots of life can happen. That's 3 times your age from now. And you've already done how much whenever you were in your 20s? You learn how to walk. You learn how to talk. You learn how to dress yourself, brush your teeth, brush your hair, drive. You learn how to do mathematics. You learn how to read. You learn science and history. You learned, what you like in life, what you don't like in life. You learn about girls or guys or whatever you're into. You learned about all this stuff in a 20-year time span. And now you're like, okay, I've graduated high school. I maybe went to college. Maybe I didn't. And you're 20 years old now, and you're asking yourself, okay, now what? You may already know what now what is. And that now what could be like, hey, I want to get my career going. I want to start buying a nice car, buy me a nice house, live in a nice community, meet my significant other, start a small family, and develop my family. And then maybe later on down the road, I'll think about investing. I'll think about paying off my debts. So most of these people, most of these kids, including myself, have all had some kind of debt. And most of these kids have never seen their debt because their parents are the ones that pay all the bills most of the time. And that money probably stops at 18. I'd say from 18 until like 25. This time frame right here, they're just building debt. They haven't even seen the first payment, most of them. Have not even seen the first payment on that student loan, right? So they don't even know. And so for like the first 25 years of life, they've had mom and dad, or just mom, or just dad, that have been raising them and paying all of those bills. They've been paying for the food. They've been paying for gas in the car to take them to events. They've been paying the health insurance. Right? They've been paying all these bills. So most 20-year-olds ain't going to be looking at this kind of video because they don't know the reality of what's going to hit them. Maybe they do. Maybe they have a job. Right? Maybe they have a car. Maybe they pay that car payment. Maybe they have insurance. Maybe they pay that insurance. Maybe they pay the gas for that car. Right? And so on and so on and so on, whatever the bills are, the debts that they would have. Right? Maybe they get the credit cards and they're thinking, oh, I'm not really worried about it because I know I'm going to be going to college. I'm going to get my degree. I'm going to have this awesome job. It's going to pay all my bills and I'm not going to have to worry about anything. So for us older adults, I would say, anyone that's been around long enough to have the house, right? You have a house, maybe you're renting. That's fine too. Maybe you're trying to get a house, but you just can't quite reach the bank's requirements to get you that home. Maybe they say, hey, you need to save up 20K. You need to save up $20,000. You're like, man, I can't even rub 2 pennies together. How am I supposed to save $20,000 to get a house? How am I going to make that money? The houses aren't cheap. Houses are definitely not cheap. Depending on where you live, houses are not cheap. So what do? You have to rent. And rent ain't cheap either. Like around here, I think like a one bedroom studio apartment, I think starts around $1,800 bucks. Easy. I mean, it is not cheap. It's not cheap, right? That's a lot of money for a 20-something-year-old that's just barely starting off in their career, and you're paying like almost 50% of your paycheck just in rent or more, right? So back to what I was saying earlier about why would you pursue velocity banking over snowball. Snowball is time. When you're 20 something years old, even 30 or 40, snowball might be fine for you. Maybe you have already accepted it that you're going to retire in your late 70s, or maybe right at, late 60s, maybe 67, 68, 69, somewhere on there. You accept, I'm going to retire at that time. I'm just going to rack up all the debt, live however I want to live, and YOLO it. And that's the problem with people nowadays, is we're always YOLOing, and we're not really looking at the consequences or looking at the future. We'll just say, hey, I'll deal with that whenever I get older. I'll deal with that if I win the lottery. I'll deal with that if I get an inheritance. But the problem is, you're counting on something that may or may not happen. You may never win the lottery. You may never get any kind of inheritance. You may not get any kind of windfall of major, substantial cash that you can invest. And if you don't know how to invest, by the time you get that money, you're just going to blow all that money. It's just going to disappear, because people are going to come at you, situations are going to come at you, things are going to happen, and say you won the lottery and it was $1 million. You're like, oh, I won $1 million. Well, guess who's coming knocking at your door very first day? That's right. You're going to have to pay your taxes. So Uncle Sam is going to come in. He's going to say, you know what? I'm going to take 400,000 of this right now. Now you're down to 600,000. You're like, man, I always dreamed of owning a car. I wanted that Lamborghini, so I'm gonna take that Lamborghini. So you're looking at cars. Yep, and you're looking at houses. Man, I could pay cash for a house right now, and I'm good to go. So there goes $200,000 for a car. Say you get you a nice house for $400,000, and that's pretty low, to be honest with you. $400,000 for a house. You just blew all that money. All that money went bye-bye. Because guess what? A car ain't worth $200,000 if you can't drive it. Right? You can't drive it, can't use it, can't go get groceries, can't get a job with it. I mean, what's it good for? It's a depreciated asset. So you get the house. So you skip the car. Skip the car, I'm just gonna get the house right here. All right, so I got my house. Then here comes the cousins. All right, I'm just gonna put cuz in here. Your cuz, people you ain't never heard of come out of the woodwork. People who claim to be your lost lover, your child support, your alimony, lawsuits, who knows? All these strange people are gonna come for that 1 million. They want that 1 million, but they don't know you only got 600,000, and then you just blew it down to here. So now you're at 200,000 in your account. You get this house, you don't realize, hey, I gotta pay taxes on this house. Here comes a tax man again. Tax man again comes in here and says, hey, guess what, buddy? You're gonna pay us taxes on this $400,000 home. We're gonna assess it and say, oh, it's only worth 300,000. So you're gonna pay taxes on this $300,000, but guess what? That tax comes due every single year. Without fail, Uncle Sam is gonna have his hand out saying, hey, you have this property, you have this house, you owe us money. Let's say it's a nice area, taxes aren't too high, and maybe your taxes are about, I don't know, let's say $1,200 a year. Like, oh, that's not too bad, I can live with that. All right. Well, you still got to have insurance on that house, right? Insurance gonna come out, maybe that's another $1,200 a year. So now you look at $2,400 a month. Well, you're like, shoot, I got this much money right here. I'm good to go for plenty of time. That's only $2,400. You're not counting the water bill, the gas bill, the electric bill, the cable bill, and anything else that pops up, maintenance on the house, anything else that happens on the house. You're not counting that as a problem, because you're like, I got $200,000. But you know what happens to this $200,000 right here? You're gonna end up going on a trip. You're gonna go travel, right? You're gonna go buy it. You're gonna go spend it. You're gonna go spending. You can go shopping. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna go shopping, right? And that's what happens with all that money. That money is going to be gone. This money would be gone conservatively, I'd say, in a year. Why? Because you didn't know how to invest from the beginning. Okay. So back to why we want to do velocity banking, not count on, hey, I'm going to win the lottery someday. I'm going to count on grandpa's about to leave me some inheritance, or grandma's going to leave me some inheritance. Don't count on that stuff. You need to count on yourself, what you can control, not what you can't control, right? You can't control winning the lottery, because the only way you can control that is not playing. Don't play. That's a poor man's tax. You're just throwing money away. I get, because I play too. I'm gonna be straightforward and transparent with you. I play, but I only play like ever so often, and I ain't throwing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars into the lottery system to never win, right? I'll say, hey, every once in a while, maybe once a month, or when the lottery gets really huge, I'll throw a couple bucks in. Why not? I'll just skip the Starbucks line or skip whatever, for a couple days, and I'm good to go, right? You could do that. If that's what you want to do, go for it. I'm not saying don't live life, don't do anything, right? That's what it's there for. It's for your entertainment. But just don't go throwing all your money in it. Anything in moderation is fine. It's whenever you start catching a habit, you start throwing money away, then you got problems. So we got to change our mindset. So velocity banking, right? Back to this whole full circle, why we want to do velocity banking versus the whole snowball thing, right? Why would we want to do that? Why do we want to choose one versus the other? Well, velocity banking, let's say I could pay off some credit cards and things like that. Let's say you did all the numbers. You ran all the numbers, you did all the math, and you could be debt free in 48 months, right? Whereas you did the snowball and you're like, man, it's going to take me 10 years. 10 years, and what could happen in that 10-year time frame? It could still happen within the 48 months, but let's say, what could happen in 10 years' time? All of us know a lot of stuff can happen in 10 years. If you look at your time from whenever you were, graduating from high school and you started into college, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, and you finished your college degree and you're just barely getting into your career, 5 years into your career, there's a whole 10 years. A lot of stuff happened. You could have got married. You could have got divorced. You could have had kids. You could have had family members that had passed away, right? I'm just being real. I know some of this stuff is sensitive, but I'm just being real with you. Like, a lot of life events happen in those 10 years. So you may get on this snowball trip right here, and all of a sudden you need a new car. So you need a new car, and you get a new loan. Oh, that just set us back again. Now we're back up to we got another 15 years to pay off that car now. Say you got a house. Oh, you just set us back now another, I don't know, another 10 years on top of that. So now we're looking at 25 years. You see what I'm saying? Life keeps coming at you, but you never paid off the original debt. The original debt never got paid off. Same thing can happen over here, but if we're doing our snowball method the correct way and include velocity banking, do them both, you could be done in 48 months. And I think that, for me, is the motivator. Is like, hey, I want to cut my time frame on how to pay stuff off fast as possible, and I'm going to look for that fastest method possible with the least resistance. But it may be a little bit of work up front, but at the same time, at the end, it's going to be a lot less stress than trying to meet this 10-year goal here whenever things like life starts happening, right? Life can still happen in here, but it ain't going to set you back 20 something years, maybe even more. It's not going to set you back 25 years. You're always going to have debts. You're always going to have bills, because life is just the way it is. Just like cars. Most people probably change cars every 4 to 7 years, maybe even less, right? So for sure, you're going to be buying a new car every 4 to 7 years. So wouldn't I want to use my first 4 years to at least pay off that car, not even worry about it? Because then I'm ready to go by the time I reach this time frame. If I'm trying to get to the 7-year mark on my car, make it last, or roll it until the wheels fall off, right? But that's not the point of velocity banking here. This is just things I'm trying to tell you that happen throughout life. You're going to buy a car. It's just a fact. You're going to buy a car. Unless you live in a metropolitan area and you can take a bus, you can ride a bike, you can take the train, you can do a carpool thing. Most Americans have to have a car to get from point A to point B, to buy those groceries and take them home, right? To take the kids to the baseball game or basketball game, take the little girl to do her ballet practice or her cheerleading. You gotta pay money to get a car, and you're gonna pay money for those events. Those uniforms ain't cheap. That gear is not cheap. Those clubs that your kids are gonna want to join, that money don't come from nowhere. It comes from somewhere. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whatever it is that they're into, you're gonna pay money as a parent. Money's gonna come out, and that's a sad thing, because most of us parents be stressing about money. We stress about everything all the time. And one less stressor would help us out tremendously, because then we won't have to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't take you to your basketball game. I'm sorry, I can't take you to cheerleading practice because money's super tight. I'm sorry, maybe next year. Why not we focus on these debts now? Pay them off and say whatever payment that we were paying. Say you were paying $500 a month. $500 a month on a credit card, or maybe less than that. We'll say $100. You were paying $100 a month to a credit card. I know you could probably do all those events I just mentioned. If you threw $100 a month, you'd have a surplus of money. If you say, hey, I'm going to pay for cheerleading, I'm going to pay for baseball games, I'm going to pay for new cleats because you're going to play some football or some baseball or whatever. You throw $100 into that, and you say that's a little I forgot what you call that fund, but like a little, not so much a slush fund, but like a little savings account. You say, I'm gonna put $100 away for my daughter, for my son, or whatever you want to do. That adds up to like, $1,200 you got in the account in 1 year. But yet you're giving away all that money to the credit card company. Credit card company doesn't care one bit about you. All they say is, thank you, give me some more. Please use my credit card some more. Otherwise, they don't care if your daughter has a basketball game, or your son has a baseball game, or your daughter needs to go to cheerleading, or she wants to do cross country and she needs to travel from one district to another district to do competition, or if she's in karate, jiu-jitsu, whatever, boxing, whatever your son, daughter is into. Maybe you want to travel. You just lost $1,200 right here. If you had no kids, let's say you had $1,200 you could use to go travel. I want to go to someplace somewhere, and it's going to cost me $1,200. Hotel, rental car, food, and everything for the whole trip costs you $1,200. You just threw all that away to the credit card. Do you see what I'm saying? If you had this snowball effect going over here, this $1,200 is gone. There ain't going to be no vacations. Sorry. All that money is gone. This money, once it comes in your bank account and goes out, it's gone. It disappears. It's into the nether, not the nether. Gone. History. Never to be seen again. So, same thing with velocity. Once you pay that car off, you ain't getting that cash back unless you sell the car. And if you sell the car, you're not getting the full dollar amount that you paid into that car. Very rarely are you going to get a car that holds its value so well that you get every dime you put back into that car back to yourself, plus interest. It's not going to happen. All right. So velocity banking is definitely something that you got to think things through, whether you want to pursue velocity banking. Is time important to you? What is your goal? Right, you got to know what your goal is. What is your goal with why you would choose velocity banking over the snowball method? Right? If you can figure that out, then the next question is, which debts do I need to focus on first? How much cash flow do I have? Where's my income coming in? So you kind of get the picture of what I'm trying to say. You need to know what your numbers are. So you're gonna look at your numbers. Right? What is that? One is your income. Where's that money coming in? Number two, what are your debts? Right? So you gotta know what your debts are. You need to know what your payments are. You need to know what your interest is. You need to know what kind of fees there are associated with it, right? And your close date. So my handwriting is all over the place. Sorry about that. But number three, that's your debts. What about your expenses? Right? That would be your gas, groceries, right? Food, whatever, right? All that is your expenses, things that fluctuate throughout the month or throughout the year. All right, your debts pretty much would be like your loans, your credit card, if you have a mortgage, right? Things like that. Those have like a start and end date that's pretty defined. Credit cards, not so much a start date and an end date, because their start date and end date is based on that close date. But it's still a loan. It's a payment that's charging you interest. The longer you leave that balance on there, the more interest you paying over time. Okay, and the last one, that this is just kind of like a default number you kind of want to know after you have already took your income and you subtracted your debts and you subtracted out your expenses. What is left over? Right? What is the leftovers? Right? You need to know what your leftovers are. Is it going to be a positive? Or is it going to be a negative? Which one is it? You need to know how much of your money left over at the end of the month. Oh, you're like, oh, I got plenty of money. I got $400. I got $400 left over every month. I can slam it towards one of these debts right now. I could slam it towards a car, slam it towards a credit card, slam it towards a mortgage. Yeah, you could. And that would be basically you taking every penny you got, subtracting out all your expenses and your monthly payments, and paying the minimum on all your loans, all your credit cards, everything you can do to just pay the minimum. And then you throw away $400 and goes towards those debts. What is that called? That's like the start of snowball method, right? Your snowball method is just paying the minimum card or your minimum debts. You can do it either way, snowball or avalanche, whichever works for you. But I like those small wins. So I take the smallest debt I have, say you owe $1,000 on some credit card, and your payment's only like we'll say $50. Okay, say your payment is $50. You start slamming $400. Of course, you're gonna pay that off fast. Say your next debt's $2,500. So basically, you pay your $400 on top of that till it's gone. Now you take both of these numbers and you lump sum them down here. Let's say this one's $200. You take that $450 and you snowball. Basically, that gets bigger. And your next bigger debt, we'll say $5,500. And you take that one. That's $500 a month. And you go plus, and you add all this together, $650. Now you're slamming $1,050 on this debt here. You're gonna pay it off in 5 months, right? You're gonna pay this off in a couple months. You're gonna pay this off in like 2 months. You see what I'm saying? Two and a half months for that. It's gonna take you probably about, 3-4 months to pay off. Probably more than that, 3 or 4 or 5 months to pay off $2,500, and this one's about 6 years, or 6 months. Sorry. 6 months to pay off that. That's the snowball method. Now with velocity banking, it's completely different. It isn't different in the sense of doing the snowball method. You're still doing the snowball method, but you're changing where your money goes. What you're doing is you're gonna take a debt after you've done all of your research. This isn't something you just jump in overnight and you just start it tomorrow. You got to do your research. You got to have all your numbers together. These numbers are very, very important. Okay, this is important. Don't get me wrong. You got to have income in order to pay your debts and your expenses. But if you're trying to knock out your debts and you don't know what your payments are, you don't know what your interest is, you don't know what kind of fees you have, you don't know what that is, you don't know how much you're spending on gas, on average every single month. Food, groceries, going out to eat, your water bill, electric bill, cable bill, those are pretty easy to find out. You just look at the bill. But food and groceries and gas, those are pretty hard. But you got to know what those numbers are. You got to look at all your credit cards, look at your checking account, look at everywhere you spend money from, and calculate your expenses. And then whatever your expenses are, say you come up with a solid number that's 407. You round it up. Round it up to be safe for those expenses. Because some months you might spend more, some months you might spend less, but it's better to have a higher number for your expected expenses and then be surprised that you got extra cash flow than to be like, oh, I say 407, but the next month you go and you spend 501 or 499, right? You budgeted for this number, 407, but you actually spent this number, or you spent this number, and the next month you see what I'm saying? But if you just take that number, find out what your average is. So I'd probably go and look at 3 to 6 months worth of bills. So you look at your bills, you look at your statements, right? And maybe you gotta look at your credit card and say, hey, I put gas on my credit card, and I go to Walmart. Right, I go to Walmart, I get my groceries and stuff like that, or Piggly Wigglies or Publix or whatever it is, wherever you go to shop and stuff like that. You need to know what your average is. What is your average based on 3 to 6 months worth of gas, 3 to 6 months worth of groceries or miscellaneous expenses at Walmart? You know, what is it that you're spending? Like, identify, because Walmart's a big store. It's not just groceries. It could be clothes, it could be prescription drugs at the drugstore, it could be, I don't know, tires, TVs, whatever it is that you're spending. You need to know what it is that you're spending, and then figure out, do some deep diving mentally, is why are you spending that money? Where's that money going? Why are you spending that money there? If it ain't for something that you need, not so much that you want, right? Okay, so off that soapbox. So once you figure out what your numbers are, the next thing you got to do is look at what your debt tool is. Your debt tool is pretty crucial, but it ain't the be all end all to everything. You don't have to have a HELOC. You don't have to have one. Everyone already has the debt tool in their hand right now. And if your credit is decent, you can get a debt tool, right? You can get a debt tool and start at zero. Well, you'd be like, hey, my credit's no good, but I got a lot of credit cards and they're all maxed out. How am I supposed to do velocity banking when all my credit cards are maxed out? Well, that's the beauty of velocity banking. You take your income, move this to the side. Say that you have a $10,000 credit card, right? You have a $10,000 credit card and you're paying every single month $500 a month. That's what you're paying. Well, not 5,000. Sorry, that's a little bit. That's extremely high. Let's say this is your payment, $500 a month. That's what your payment is on that credit card, right? That's how much you owe. This is how much you pay per month, right? Your payday. Let's say that your income. You find out what your numbers are. Your income is, I don't know, we'll say $1,000 bi-weekly. Okay, so you have $1,000 bi-weekly. You take that money, all of it. After you've done your research, you have to know your numbers. You have to do your research. You need to know exactly what your due dates are, right? You gotta know what your due dates are for all of your bills. And then with those other expenses, you need to come up with an average. Okay, so we're gonna go here for your other bills, right? This is like gas, food, etc. etc. Your due dates for your loans and all those reoccurring payments, right? Loans, credit cards, car payment, house maybe, right? You need to know what those are. You got to know your due dates. right? For this one, you're just going to average it out. You're going to add up all this, add up all that, add that up. So say it was 3 things, you go and add that up. Say 3 plus 3 equals 9. Divide by, there's three numbers you added up, divide by 3, and that gives you 3. All right, so your average is $3. Okay, so your average every month, say this is month 1 was $3, month 2 here was $3, and month 3 was $3. You add up those 3 months, it gives you 9. Divide by 3, that gives you $3. So $3 is what your average is. And I know this is super low ball. I'm just trying to help you out with simple math here. All right, get those averages together, and then every single week you're going to deduct the average from your debts. So let's say you got $500 here. That's your payment for this credit card. This debt tool that you're paying, it's maxed out. You got no room in it. You got no room in it. Okay, your interest and your payment is all on that $500 right there. It don't matter what your interest is on that credit card. It does, but it doesn't really matter. It's not that crucial. When you're using velocity banking, it doesn't necessarily matter. It could be anywhere between 10%, maybe lower, to 30%. Right? I have credit cards personally that are around 30-32%. I have some that are as low as 0 right now. Okay, so my debt tool personally, my debt tool right now is 19.15%. Okay, so 19.15% is my debt tool, and it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, if I did velocity banking or if I did the snowball method, I still would be paying interest on that credit card as I paid it off. And if this was not my debt tool, and say it was, since it's a higher amount, I owe $10,000, and I'm over here snowballing on this $1,000 credit card that I have that's super cheap. Maybe I'm paying $1,000 and I'm snowballing on here. You know, my extra cash flow is $400. It's going to take me some time to pay that off, and then go to the next one, then go to the next one before I even get to the 10,000. So I'm still paying interest on that 10 grand for months while I'm waiting for the snowball method to get to that debt so that I can pay it down. All right, so with velocity banking, I'm going to take my $1,000 and I'm going to throw all of it into my payment. And you're like, man, logically, and I get it, because I was the same way. I was like, man, this does not make sense. Okay, if I throw 100% of my paycheck into my credit card, well, what happens then? All these bills, the gas, the groceries, you know, whatever, the car payment, the credit cards, right? The house payment, all these loans are still going to come out of where? Where are they going to come out of? Where are they coming out of? You got to know where they're coming out of. Say we'll say 90% of these, 90% of all those debts are going to come right out of my checking account. Right? And I ain't got no money there. You told me, Jason, you told me, hey, take all your money, throw it into the credit card, all of it. And if you're investing, stop investing. Stop investing until you get velocity banking under wraps first. Now, I'm not saying stop it forever. I'm just saying, does it make any sense to be investing in your 401k or your IRA? Right? Does that make any sense to be throwing like 150 or more? Say maybe you're throwing $300 every single month into these accounts, and you're not getting much of a return on it. Say you're getting 7%. You're getting 7%, and you're over here paying 10 to 30% interest on your credit cards, your car notes. Maybe your mortgage might be the only thing that's probably like 2.75. Maybe that's the only thing that's really low. So that would make sense then. Okay, invest all you want. But what if your car payment is 6.5? That's very close. What if your credit card here is anywhere between this is your credit card and your loan, let's say it's 12%. Does it make sense for you to be paying and only getting 7% while you're losing money? You're losing money every single year to this loan, to this credit card, to this car. Not so much to the house, but the house always has upfront. It's upfront credit, front loaded, that you're paying. Okay, so let's clear up the screen. go down. Move over. I'm running out of paper here. Okay, so velocity banking is just taking your income and put it all into your debt tool, right? You have to have everything set up and structured before you execute the plan. If you have cash flow, this will help you to get started on your velocity path faster. And you got to know what your cash flow is. If you have zero cash flow, this is going to be extremely tricky and extremely hard, and can get you into some serious trouble if you don't execute properly. Don't overthink things, but you need to plan. And planning is very crucial to making sure that when you execute velocity banking, you don't fall into any kind of traps or any kind of troubles or late fees or anything like that. Any kind of interest hikes or something happening, okay? Say you lose your job tomorrow, okay? You don't want that to happen. So we're going to assume that you have $400 in cash flow. $400 is good. That's something you need to know. So I would look at my bills and be like, let me do some research on my debt tool, and let me look at my bills and find out what can I pay with my debt tool. Can I pay my car payment with my debt tool? In most cases, I'd say no. Can I pay my mortgage? Right? Can I pay my mortgage? Yes or no? Probably not. What else is probably something else you can't pay that probably cost you too much to pay with a credit card? Let's say I've seen it where you can't pay your water bill. You can't pay your water bill because they don't take credit card, or they charge you some kind of like 3 to 5% fee or something like that. They charge you some crazy fee to pay the bill. So those kind of bills you would exclude from your $1,000 income. So let's say all these added up, your income was $1,000, right? Bi-weekly. And all these added up, we're just giving numbers here. We'll say this is $500. All this together is $500, and we trying to avoid this fee. We don't want to pay fee. We just want to pay the water bill. We want to pay our mortgage. We want to pay the car. And trust me, I know there ain't no way, man. Who the heck has a bill that's only $500 for the car, the mortgage, and the water bill? It's just not real, right? But we're just trying to do math. I'm just trying to show you the possibilities. You can go in deeper. You just gotta know what your numbers are. So what I would do in this scenario is go ahead and say, hey, after I've paid all my bills, I have this much money in my account. I need to make sure that I have this much money in cash sitting in my checking account, so that when that car payment comes out, the mortgage payment comes out, and that water payment come out, I have $500 cash in my checking account to pay that bill. All right, so you're going to subtract that 500 from here, and you're going to throw in the remaining amount into your debt tool. And then with that debt tool, you aren't going out and buying a new TV. You're not buying computer parts. You're not buying new clothes. You're not splurging. You've already gone through all your numbers. You know what your average is for that month. You know what your payments are for things like gas, groceries, going out to eat. I'm not saying change your lifestyle, right? But how often are you going out and buying new clothes? And if you are buying clothes every single month, should you be buying new clothes every single month? And if you are you living by, I need this, or I want this, or oh, that looks cool, I like that, let me get that? So you need to change the mentality. The mentality is very, very, very important for this to work, right? If you're trying to focus on getting out of debt and you're trying to reach a goal, your goal should be your main focus. Not buying new stuff, not doing anything until your goal is reached, right? Whatever it is that you have to do to reach your goal, that's what you need to do. Okay, I know this is very long, this is very boring, very dry, but this is very, very important, right? If you're trying to get out of debt and you're trying to reach FIRE, you have to make changes in your life. And maybe it is cutting back. Maybe $400 of extra cash flow is not enough cash flow for you. Maybe you want to have a little bit more cash flow. Okay, but anyways, let's get off that soapbox, get back to this. So you're going to take all your money this $500, the remaining balance here, and slam that onto here. So you have $400 left over every single month. You only needed to worry about 500 bucks. You could probably split that between paychecks and be like 250 out of that one check, right? And then the next paycheck, you could take another 250, right? You could do that. You could split it up because you're just looking at your averages, right? And you will have $500. But I would suggest if you're starting this off on the very first day, day one, pick a day. I would say the first of the month. Make sure that your mortgage payment, because usually mortgage payment's always due on the first of the month. Your rent is always due on the first of the month. I'd say 99% of the time, those bills are due on the first of the month. Okay? Make sure that those bills are paid. And then you look at when do you get paid? What is that date? Dates are important. And go ahead and start setting aside that money on the side. Okay, my payment went through for my mortgage, it's good to go. Say it was on a Tuesday, right? And then I get paid on Friday. This is where that weekly budget comes in super handy. And you just paid $400 to your mortgage. That's your mortgage payment right there on the first. Not realistic, I get it, but I'm just trying to show you numbers here. And you got paid $1,000 on Friday. So what I would do immediately on that first payday is subtract out that 250 right there. Bam, done. Move that out of your money and throw $750, all of it, into your debt tool. Every penny of it. Now redirect all your bills that you can pay with the credit card, and make sure it makes sense. It's got to make sense to you. Don't just throw all your stuff onto a credit card and say, hey, I'm fine with paying the 3 to 5% fee. Okay, maybe you are, but you better take that into consideration that they're going to charge you 3 to 5% or some kind of convenience fee for doing that. But I move all my debts, everything I could, all my expenses to that credit card, and figure out what that is. You got to do the homework. I'm sorry to say it, but there's some homework here. You got to do your homework before you just start, just doing things. Make sure everything lines up and everything makes sense, and run scenarios. You have time. You have time. If it takes you a month, 2, 3 months to get organized before you jump into this, please do yourself a favor and sit down, organize your stuff, make sure you know what the numbers are, and then pick a date. Pick a date and execute. But make sure that you know your numbers and you ran scenarios like, what if this happens and have I considered this? And you look at your numbers, make sure you looked at your bills, you looked at your statements, you looked at your checking account, and you wrote everything out. Okay, I spent this much money this month on groceries. I spent this much going out out in the town. I went to the restaurant this many times and I spent this much, right? So you got to know what your numbers are. And then maybe you got to get it into your head already, like, all right, maybe I shouldn't go out to eat, 23 times out of the month. Maybe I need to cut that down to like 10 and start cooking from home. So you're already, as soon as you implement any of these methods, right? Snowball or velocity banking, whatever your method is, whatever your tool is, whatever your process is going to be, you are going to start seeing, I'm going to want to start cutting back. I'm going to start looking at things and be like, I'm super serious. You got to be at that point. I'm super serious, right? This is what you're going to say to yourself. I'm super serious about getting out of debt. No one's going to get me out of debt except for me. No one put me into my debt except for me, right? I'm the one who decided to use my loans, to use my credit card. And sometimes it may not be your fault, right? Let's say you got sick, right? You got sick, something happened, you got a bill. But guess whose bill that is? It is your bill. It's not your neighbor's bill. It's not your cousin's bill. It's not your parents' bill. It's your bill. You acquired the loan. You acquired the debt. Something happened to you. Yes, it's unfortunate. There are situations like that happen, but you have to pick up your shoelaces, tie them up, and take responsibility for those things, and start working towards getting out of debt. Right? This is what your goal is. You're like, I'm fed up. I don't want to work no more. I want to retire. I want to reach FIRE. What can I do to get there now? Okay, so for the 90% of us that are at that point, that we have got ourselves into a debt situation and now we're just working to pay the bills, right? We're just working to exist. Why can't we just work so that we can go and travel? Why can't we work to do what we want to do? We're sacrificing our time, our blood, sweat, and tears, and our time. For what? To keep paying more bills, to keep getting into more debt, to keep up with the Joneses? Let's change that cycle. You don't need to keep up with the Joneses. Stop buying that car. Oh, my neighbor got a new car. I guess I need to go get a new car. Oh, my neighbor just upgraded their house. Well, I'm going to upgrade my house. Oh, my coworker's got all these fancy gadgets and gadgets on their desk. I want to go get those fancy gadgets and gadgets too. Oh, it's just super cheap. It's only like $10 for this and $20 for that, or $500 for this. You're like, oh, I'll just put it on my credit card. And that's what gets you in debt. That's why this is like an endless cycle of peer pressure around you. Just stop that. You have to break the mental psychology of wanting to buy things because you want to keep up with everybody else, and you think, oh, well, if I buy this, I'm going to be cool just like him, and everybody's going to hang around his desk and talk about his latest keyboard and mouse. Nobody cares. At the end of the day, no one cares. The question you should be asking yourself is, do I need it? Not that I want it. Do I need it? If my goal is to get out of debt, that's what I want. That's what I need to do. Not buy another keyboard or a mouse or a fancy pen or some new shoes or a new backpack or a new purse. Every time one comes out, oh, it's so cute, it's so pretty, I need to have it. I gotta have it. No, you don't gotta have it. Do you need another purse if you have 50 million other purses? No, you don't. You don't need another one. So it's a mentality thing. You have to break that cycle. You have to understand that you have that problem and then work towards fixing it. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I know this is extremely long and I apologize for it, but I think this is a good starting ground. You have to know your numbers before you implement velocity banking. Once you identify everything that you need to identify, you're going to apply it on a specific date. Do not start today. Do not start tomorrow, and do not start next week or next month. Give yourself time to get all the information you need. And if you need other information, watch my videos. And there are plenty of other videos out there, not just from me. Plenty of other videos out there that you can watch, listen, and learn and absorb as much as you can, and give it time for you to build the foundation, to get everything solid before you start building the house on sand. So you got to get that sound. You got to get that sound and solid foundation in place with the rebar and everything solid, ready to go before you start putting the house up on top of sand. It's not going to work. So you need to make sure you do your research. Make sure you do your homework. Get a piece of paper, a notepad, a pen, an Excel document, something, and start writing out all of your numbers. Get you a printer, or don't get a printer and use the office printer if they'll let you. Don't get in trouble here. I'm just saying. Do whatever you need to do to get all of your statements, bank account statements, checking, credit card, loans, mortgage, everything. Print out your statements and look at them and organize them, from checking account to your savings account to how much money do you have on your 401k, how much money are you contributing to your 401k, how much of your paycheck is being sent to all these extra fees. Do you have your health insurance? Do you have a health insurance plan through your company? Are you buying additional health insurance for yourself on the side, outside of your company? Are you doing like additional buy-ups inside your company? Like where's all the money going? And then you're going to reevaluate, do I really need these things? Like if something happens to me tomorrow, yes, I need accidental death insurance, or I need some kind of life insurance to help alleviate the debts that I have so my family isn't burdened by my debts, right? That makes sense, right? That would definitely make sense that you have something to protect you and your family. Okay, so insurance is important. And we're going to cover that in more detail in the future as I gain more knowledge and I gain more experience in that field. We're going to cover whole life insurance. We're also going to cover IULs, right? We're going to look at both because I have both policies. I just started them within the last couple of weeks, so I'm very, very new. But as I gain more experience and I gain more knowledge, I will share it with you, what I learned. I will answer any questions that you guys have. Even today, if you have questions about life insurance, I can get you answers, and I'm not going to charge anything for that stuff, because that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to help you guys out, help you to get out of debt, help you to get your life straight so that you can reach your FIRE. Right, I want everybody to be happy and healthy, and I hope that you have a great day. Please do like, subscribe, and take notes. Watch this video again. There's probably so much content that I've covered that could be beneficial to you, and I get most of this is visual, but for the most part, I build these out to be more like podcasts where you can kind of just plug them in your ears, put in your headphones, and just listen, right? Take some notes if you have a pen and paper. Not so much to see everything, but if you want to see more visuals and stuff like that, I try to provide as much visual content as possible, and it will get better over time. I'm just starting off on this stuff, so it does take time to develop a skill, and that skill is slow coming. My speech is not very clear. I do say a lot of and ums and likes and stuff like that, so I do have a lot of pauses and speech impediment kind of things, but it isn't like a clinical thing. It's more like a mental thing for me, like dyslexia, as you saw multiple times. A little bit of dyslexia does kick in every once in a while. But anyways, I hope that you do like, comment, subscribe, and tune back in for the next episode. We'll cover some more great topics. All right, guys, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.